Well, hello there, chaps. Welcome back to another jolly good episode of the Job
And Ruben
Show. Yes, indeed. Today we've got an episode that's very near and dear to my heart because if you don't know, I'm a very big fan of retro tech, and we've also got Ruben here, who's a very big fan of Apple. So today we're going to be talking about the most retro Apple-y computer there probably ever was, which is the original Macintosh.
I love the Macintosh, the 1984.
I know. Bad boy.
So, how's your week been?
Uneventful, yeah. Haven't really been up to much. I refreshed my phone, like clean installed it, just because it was full of junk and couldn't be bothered to uninstall them. So why not just uninstall your operating system?
Are you still running the Android?
I am still running original Android. Unfortunately, I have a Google 5A, so like it's used by a lot of developers, so you can like unlock the bootloader and like install stuff on it. I'm too much of a monkey to figure out how to do that. So I just reinstalled it and uninstalled all the Google dodginess. Yeah. What about you then?
Well, I got a hard drive, a terabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
So I've now got to find out if it works or not.
Very good, very
good. And wipe it clean. I'm also planning on maybe dual booting a Raspberry Pi.
And a Raspberry Pi?
Yeah.
There's barely enough memory on one of those things to, you know.
But for what I want, I was thinking just to run like a Plex server on it, so like a fully legal movie
Oh,
site.
yes. Don't you worry, Spotify.
But I was thinking, oh no, but the issue with that is I probably don't have enough space to store everything on it.
Of course, yeah.
But actually, my terabyte hard drive, I can store thousands and thousands of films on it.
Exactly.
So, and it doesn't have to be fast because it's just storing it.
Well, ideally, you want a lot of RAM for a server.
Yeah, I was going to say, but then you can just, or I might buy a really cheap laptop.
Yeah, that would probably
and
be a
just
good idea.
stick a bunch of RAM in it.
Or a desktop, to be honest. Like, you look on eBay, there's some really cheap ones out there.
Yeah, I was thinking like a workstation, maybe like the HP Z, maybe like 420 or 640.
420? Yeah.
Or maybe the 820.
One of these names. Yeah.
But the thing is, quite a lot of companies use those because they were really good. They had a really powerful CPU for what they were. Quite often, companies will chuck hundreds of them out at a time when they upgrade all their PCs, and it'll just flood the market, making them go fairly cheap.
Exactly, yeah.
But you got to be careful because sometimes they're at like £200, £300 a pop, and sometimes they're at £20 to £50 a pop.
It does vary. I mean, and when you think about it, you know, with all the businesses going online and everything, you would think, you know, there's going to be a surplus of them surely. So I'm just saying. So let's talk about how Apple even got started in the first place. So Apple, you probably know like the myth around Apple starting, don't you?
Yes.
It was like two dudes, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, two Steves.
Yeah. Garage.
Out in the garage, making computers.
Yeah.
I think they made them initially for like this little tech shop. Remember when tech shops were a thing? They've all gone bankrupt now.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
No, we have one. We do have one.
Do we? Phone shop.
Yeah.
That doesn't count. Come on. It's just just dodgy. But yeah, they initially made computers for that. They made the Apple I, which was literally just a piece of wood with a computer inside.
It did look like something that had came out of like you would do at like GCSE.
Yeah.
Here's what we made today.
I find it charming. I don't know what you think of it.
Interesting.
It is. But then it all really started to kick off with the release of the Apple II, which you've probably seen. It's a good-looking computer.
Yeah.
It is. That's the only real thing I can say about it. I don't really know too much about it.
So you really like old Macs.
I love old Macs.
But you see, but you don't like new Macs.
Yeah, what, are you the other way around?
I quite like some of the new Macs. Or okay, no, not new Macs. I quite like some of the new iMacs and stuff they do.
Oh, no, I don't like the look of the new iMac.
Oh, no, sorry. The MacBooks. Do you quite like the MacBooks?
They're all... I don't really know what I feel. Do you like how they don't taper anymore? They're no longer a wedge, they're like just flat. Do you like that?
I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think because they run nice and smoothly compared to the old Macs.
Yeah, but have you seen the cooling on the new M2s is actually worse than the M1s?
Yeah, I've heard about
Which
that.
is
Concerning.
unfortunate. It is unfortunate, and also there's less battery space. I don't know. I like the wedges. I do like the wedges. Like my cousin has like a really good. I think it's like a 2019 MacBook. Oh yeah. It has turbo ports. It has 2 Thunderbolt ports, but it's good. Anyway, Apple II, a good looking machine. Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
It's the keyboard will obviously become famous because it feels really good. People love that.
Yeah.
You do know
Everyone knew you were typing on that though.
Yeah, exactly.
You put one click down and it's like thunder. I'm typing. I'm typing. Look, everybody, I'm typing.
Some kind of like golem. I mean, back in the day, if you had a computer of that size, let the world know. Why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of gave Apple the leverage they needed. But as a whole, they still were a pretty divided company. I mean, Steve Jobs. He's a bit of a personality, isn't he?
Oh, he has a cracking haircut.
True.
And that beard.
Yeah, very true. I don't know. He kind of tapered off near the end of his life, but when we're talking about 80s Steve Jobs here, absolute babe. But anyway,
better than Tim Cook.
Yes. What are you on about? Ted Ferrarini though, love him. Where even was I?
This is a great episode.
We're gonna have to do so much trimming. Yeah, when he has an idea for a computer, he will not accept backing downs. He will not accept people compromising on that vision. I mean, he was a visionary, to be fair.
But like before like these computers, they were big, bulky machines. Like
I suppose so.
Huge.
I mean,
like only a few people had them from like the military, possibly space agencies and war, because like they filled a whole room, didn't they?
Yeah. And would you believe it if the computer they used to land people on the moon? That only had 4 kilobytes of RAM.
Yeah, that has our phone has
were
more technology than the whole rocket ship that went to the moon on the first place.
It's crazy, it is. But yeah, in terms of popularizing the home computer, Steve definitely did a good job. He was a bit of a fanatic, and that would eventually lead himself into competition, not with IBM, as you might expect, but with his own company.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people at Apple, very talented engineers, of course, they wanted to make a computer called the Lisa, which was this big, it's hard to explain. It was a very big computer, still meant for like home computing and some science stuff, but
it looked like most computers with two, but except for it had a little box sticking out to the side where you put your floppy disks in.
Yeah, it's interesting. But Steve Jobs hated it so much that, I kid you not, he got out of the studio, bought a bit of property next to the studio, hung up a pirate flag, and started his own studio. I swear, you can fact check this, by the way. It might, obviously this is all coming from memory. The notes we've got are not very good. But, I mean, the man was committed. And to be fair, it did help motivate his team, which you could argue is part of the reason why the Macintosh is so good.
Imagine having a massive pirate banner flying outside your...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look at me, I've got a pirate flag, I'm better than you.
Can IBM do that? It is true. But yeah, do you think that contributed to the development? Do you think he planned? Do you think it was like some big stunt to like make his employees work harder?
No, I just felt like he thought like doing it, so he did.
Yeah, makes sense. Speaking of IBM, by the way, a discussion of the Mac cannot go without a discussion of the IBM PC.
Yeah.
What do you think of it? 1981. IBM comes out. They get Charlie Chaplin to do the commercials of all people.
It was a good commercial.
It was. IBM, when they came up with the PC, they didn't expect to sell as many copies as they did. And the person they got to... guess who was writing the operating system for the PC?
Steve Jobs.
It was not Steve Jobs. That would be the ultimate plot twist. It was none other than Bill Gates and Microsoft.
Bill Gates and Microsoft?
Yeah, really? But before... At the time, Microsoft didn't exist. It was just like Bill Gates writing the programs. But because they expected it not to do very well, when it became this massive commercial success, they didn't secure the rights to Bill Gates and his code. So Bill Gates went off and made software for Compaq, for Radio Shack, and all their computers.
Compaq.
So yeah,
the
so
best
IBM kind
computer.
of screwed themselves there. You want to talk about Compaq's computer then?
So Compaq literally was their portable computer, but of course in the like
80s.
80s, I was going to say
Early
is
80s.
Is it early 80s or was it late 70s?
It's early 80s after the IBM PC, so 81.
It was so amusing because it was literally a suitcase.
It was massive.
It was massive.
Why would you even want a portable computer?
Because it had a handle on it. It looked so cool with a little
Yeah,
handle.
but the people, you could kill a man with that. It's ridiculous.
You really could.
Yeah.
And I liked how the keyboard folded up into it.
Oh, it's clever, but it's a bit much, isn't it?
All right, so we're gonna move on to the big thing.
Mm.
What we've been waiting for.
The Macintosh. So,
Not the Hackintosh.
not the Hackintosh.
The Macintosh.
The story of its development is very interesting. Yeah.
1984. That's where it begins.
1984. So at this point, I think the Lisa had come out.
Lisa came out and it
was
didn't
a
work.
it was a complete flop. Yeah, nobody
What?
bought it.
Yeah.
But Apple was trying to, build up a bit of hype behind this machine because Apple computers, would you agree, even to this day, like they're more than just computers. They want to tell a story.
They do.
They're very particular about their design choices and
they're unique. They don't look like any other. They still manage to distinguish themselves from
exactly.
being.
And there were two main steps, I'd say, to the popularization of Macintosh. We could call it that, the popularization of the Mac. First was the commercial, which
Who is it? Who directed it again?
Ridley Scott, director
That was
of it was Terminator, but they brought in Ridley Scott to direct the commercial. 1984, it aired at the Super Bowl, so you're gonna have the entire American public's eyes on this thing.
And it was an interesting, cool advert with it being basically because you know how 1984 is the whole setting of Big Brother.
Yeah.
It was kind of all based around Big Brother. If you're not aware of the advert, you get everyone listening to Big Brother, who is subtly hinted at being
Yeah,
IBM.
I don't think they. Well, Apple says they didn't intend for it to be IBM, but I feel like there definitely was something going on there. Yeah.
Definitely just a subtle kind of hint towards them being IBM. And then you have this person who runs in with a sledgehammer, being chased, I think, with a sledgehammer.
Yes. And she's got the big Apple logo plastered all over her shirt.
Looking very bright.
Yeah.
And she swings it round and round and round and launches it into the man's face, and everything kind of like fades to white, and then like the weird credit things roll.
Yeah,
it goes,
Apple's
and it goes something like the Macintosh will create a 1984.
It was in date 1984. Apple computers will introduce Macintosh, and you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984. Now, how is that for a slogan?
Yep, amazing.
Definitely building up the hype, and to combo that, the 1-2 just after that, Steve Jobs goes on stage with the Mac itself and
pops it down.
Pops
pulls
it
it out the box. Was it a bag?
It was a bag.
It was a bag. Pulls it out the bag and he stands back. Everyone is silent, and then all of a sudden it goes, "Hello, I am Macintosh."
Boy, it sure is great to get out of that box. It was cute, but no, they didn't talk about this in the research we were doing. That was exclusive to the 16 kilobyte model. The 12 kilobyte model couldn't do that.
Kilobytes.
So kilobyte. So even back then, Apple was doing exclusive software. Oh, nothing has changed.
Maybe just because it couldn't run on the lower software.
Yeah, that was it. But I don't know. Bit of Apple swindling there.
And to think that I have a terabyte hard disk drive that is considered
yes,
old.
sitting in front of us, we have a 16 gigabyte computer and a 1 terabyte hard drive.
Bearing in mind the hard drive is from 6th of March 2009.
Like 16 gigabytes, is that more? How much could be stored on a floppy disk? It was like
megabytes, wasn't it?
It was in megabytes. It had to have been in megabytes. So the scale, the progression of technology, and that's one of the reasons why I really love talking about retro tech, because it puts you in perspective, doesn't it?
I'm really tempted to buy a Walkman. I might buy a broken one or 3D model one and print it so I can plug my phone into it and use a headset and basically fashion something that I can like that looks like a Walkman, but actually it's just like a holder for my phone and headphones.
I had the exact same thought.
No.
I went and got a 3D model of a Walkman, and I planned to put a Raspberry Pi in it and turn it into an MP3 player.
Oh, I was just thinking of having it way for my just basically in the tape player instead of it being a tape, just being able to slot my phone into it.
Oh no, because I'm trying to use my
like-
phone less, so I'm like, oh, I might as well make a MP3 player. And like, how cool would you look? The guy who walks in with a full-on thingamabob strapped to his belt, Sony Walkman.
Do you want to say anything about the mice?
The mouse. The mouse is something very interesting. So Steve Jobs, he grasps onto this new technology. He's a big fan of pushing the industry forward. Always has been, really. And what happened was he went to a visit to a place called Xerox PARC, which is the experimental like science park thing, kind of like Bell Labs. I don't know if you know about them. They invented the first telephone and also Unix. So yeah, it's one of those places. And he sees this strange pointing device, because you have to imagine before this, everything on a computer, like the IBM PC, just a terminal. You use your arrow keys or whatever, for the people who use arrow keys still. But he sees this weird pointing device. It only has one button, and it uses a rubber ball. It doesn't have the weird red light now. It uses a proper rubber ball to move this strange thing called a mouse across the screen. And he sees this and he loves it. So he licenses it for, I think, $40,000.
$40,000.
Which is probably even more in today's money. So that's ridiculous. And obviously, it first makes its debut on the Macintosh, and I believe it's what popularised the mouse.
Yeah, am I right in thinking that the Macintosh was the first GUI laptop to come
It wasn't
out?
the first GUI, but it was definitely the most usable GUI at the time.
And that's what really made everyone go towards the GUI, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've got. It says here that John Lennon, he got his son. It was Sean Lennon, I think.
Yeah.
He got it for his birthday, and at the time, I don't know how old Sean Lennon was, but if a child can use a computer,
he was young, yeah.
Or Andy Warhol, who's probably never used a computer in his life,
Create some art with
to create art with it. Exactly, it really was a computer for people like you and me.
And on the theme of art, they had Mac Paint, which is which definitely inspired
primitive Critter, primitive Photoshop.
Definitely, inspired Photoshop.
Oh yeah, of course. Very nostalgic program. And then just a revolutionary computer.
The floppy disk, how you had to, the only way when you loaded it up, you had to put in your OS floppy disk.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you wanted to put your game in, you'd take out it and then you'd put your game floppy disk in. But sometimes it didn't have everything it needed because it was all loaded into the RAM. So sometimes you'd have to swap the floppy disk out again.
Exactly.
Just to be able to play your game.
But obviously, what we've just told you is the widely known story, or not widely known among nerds story. Yeah. But there's a lot of small details that a lot of info seems to leave out. Let's start with the design of the Mac itself. So it's fanless, except for the whatever you call it, power supply fan, which is going to be a theme of Apple, obviously.
Yeah.
That did, a lot of people think it hampered its performance back in the day. I think it did, but I'm not too sure. But that's Steve Jobs being Steve Jobs, wanting it to be this perfect computer that, just does everything so well. But on our final point, it's time to talk about what it led to. The Macintosh itself, a lot of people seem to forget about. It wasn't actually too popular. It was very popular among designers, but in terms of home computing, not home computing, rather, business.
Everyone still used IBM.
Yes, of course, because international business machines, of course.
Yeah.
You're running a business back in the 80s, you're going to want all the programs that come on Microsoft's, IBM's little operating system. It was really...
Telling me to move.
It was really with the... later computers like the Macintosh 2. It supported color. It was a normal desktop factor. The CRT. This is one thing confuses me. I don't know if you see it differently, but the CRT is part of the computer with the Macintosh, which is a bit weird. I don't know. I guess it's like that with modern iMacs, but I don't know how I feel about it.
It definitely led to greatness.
It did. I guess if you're back in the day, even plugging in a CRT, most people
definitely led to the new iMacs, and you think the new M.2 that definitely didn't perform as well as they wanted it to.
Yeah.
All came from the Macintosh.
But anyway, we've gone on enough. This is probably the longest episode, completely uncut, we've ever done.
So thanks for listening to our podcast on the legacy and the history of Macs and MacBooks, as well as many other sidetracks we've gone on.
Yes, many tangents. It's been a fun one. I reckon we should do a bit more retro tech, maybe about, I don't know, consoles. It's been good. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye. So we now have a little special bit of all our bloopers.
For the special event, the blooper section. You've actually made me lose the plot. Yeah, Steve Jobs. You're distracting me with your magical phone wizardry.
Yeah, rocking the OS 16, so if I tap and hold, I can change between lock screens.
Yeah, it looks nice. What were the other features? I'm trying to think.
This is what I'm vibing at the moment.
The Jamaica home screen look.
Yeah, you can unsend messages. So well, there's a little search function. So on the
Did they change the widgets? I swear they changed the widgets.
But I can click search at the bottom instead of having to do.
Oh, it's like a Mac.
Instead of having to do that.
That's clever. It's about the integration and whether or not the apps can be bothered to develop. Have you run into any bugs yet with it, or is it alright?
No, it's running smoothly.
Fair dude.
My theory is because you can change lock screens.
Yeah.
For the fun of it, I'm thinking about going on like a Marvel theme. So I have all the Marvel characters as my wallpaper, and then like 7 of them each day. I'll just
fair dude,
flip over from like Hulk to Doctor Strange.
I like the customization. I do.
But I do like the new texts at the new fonts. I do quite like that.
Yeah, it was a need.
What I don't like is the little, the lock. The lock's small.
Why?
I don't know why the lock is small.
What, that?
Yeah.
It looks clean, I think.
I don't like how it's small. Also, I don't know if you look at my battery. It never used to tell you your battery percentage. Now
Did it not?
No, it just used to be like a bar, and it was so annoying. But now they've flicked it in.
Damn. I'm still on iOS 15 with my little boy, but obviously I never use that. I use that for like the 2 apps which are iOS exclusives. But I'll probably just keep them.
Exclusive?
The Shuabe Jisho, which is like a Japanese dictionary that I use, and it's really good, but it's only iOS. And then there's Fitness, which I dislike, and I use it whenever I can. Oh yeah, even the name Macintosh. I think in some little corners of Mac OS, they still call the computer the Macintosh.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
So if you go to the little Apple icon, and you go about this Mac, I think it still does.
Startup disk Macintosh HD?
Yep.
What on earth is this?